Freshly graduated from college, Marnie struggles to find her purpose as she ping-pongs between awkward romantic alternatives looking for a potential boyfriend. In the opening scene, we see her walking into a tattoo parlor in a not-so-stable state, looking to get her fist tattoo. Even though she's unsure of what to get, the tattoo artist asks her to sit down as he shows her a couple of potential tattoos. She struggles to form a sentence, eventually admitting to being drunk. The tattoo artist chuckles before letting her know he can't tattoo her drunk, because it'll be a bigger headache than she'll have in the morning. The following morning, Marnie visits her friend Alex at work, and they head outside to talk. She reveals that she got fired, and he can't believe it. Marnie had gotten fired because she asked for a raise, and as she explains that to him, they can't help but laugh about it. Curious, Alex asks about her plans, but she reveals that she has nothing in mind. Regardless, she's not worried, and thinks she'll figure it out eventually. On her way back to the apartment, she gets stopped by Rachel and Dave, who invite her to dinner. So we see all of them in a van on their way to their friend's apartment. They enjoy their ride, as Dave expresses his excitement, but also complains about not going out a lot. Instead, he wishes he had a life like Marnie, because he thinks she's spontaneous. Marnie laughs before assuring him that his life is as exciting as hers. When they make it to the apartment, their friend Wyatt lets them in before they head to the restaurant. At dinner, Marnie seems to be focused on other people's conversations, but she snaps back as Dave accidentally spills his drink on her. He apologizes profusely, feeling guilty, but she lets him know that it's fine. Something seems to be on Marnie's mind, so she interrupts their conversation to ask about Alex's strange behavior. They tell her they don't know what's wrong, but assume it's because of his breakup. Marnie is surprised to hear that Alex has broken up with his long-term girlfriend Nina, but she gets saddened, and Rachel notices. As Dave leaves for the bathroom, Rachel asks her what's wrong, so they decide to go somewhere more private. Marnie admits to being in love with Alex, but thinks that she has no chance, because she has previously tried to get with him, but it never made it past that. However, Rachel tells her that she should grab the opportunity, because she'll never know unless she tries. She even mentions her and Dave's relationship, mentioning that she had been doubtful initially, but it all turned out great. Dave joins the conversation, so Marnie lets him in on the secret, and similar to Rachel, he thinks that she and Alex would make a great couple and encourages her to go for it. After the party, the crew heads back to Dave and Rachel's place, where Dave seems to be the only one having the time of his life. While Rachel can't help but laugh at his drunken behavior, Marnie seems to be distracted by something. Dave notices that she looks sad, so he asks her what's wrong. She admits to not having the best night of her life, so he assumes that she might be malnourished, and therefore offers her to try some hummus. They all jump slightly as their friend Susan appears out of nowhere, scaring them. She makes her way in through the back door, and Marnie greets her before she goes to the bathroom. While her friends are catching up, Marnie is not looking great in the bathroom. By the time she collects herself, the topic has already switched to Alex and his breakup. Susan suggests that they set him up with a new girl, and as Marnie makes her way back, Dave sees her and remembers that she likes him. However, as he's explaining, Marnie gives him the look to stop and not reveal that she has a crush on Alex. Regardless, Susan gets the gist of it, and even mentions her failed attempt at getting with him a couple of years prior. Marnie assures her that it's nothing, but they continue the conversation in the car. She's not afraid to get hurt, but given that she was rejected once, Marnie thinks there's no use in trying again. Susan protests, however, reminding her that Alex needs to be told a couple of times, given that he's socially awkward. Not only that, Susan lets her know that Alex gets excited every time she's mentioned, and he even makes sure to say the best things about her. Marnie appreciates her honesty, but thinks Alex would have made the move if he liked her. They arrive at her house, and Marnie thanks her for the ride before entering. The following day, we see Marnie in a rather fashionable attire going to her first workday at a new job. Upon arriving at the right floor, she meets Mitchell, the guy working at the front desk. He tells her to go to Kimberly's office and wait for her. However, after some time, he comes by the office to check on how things are going. Again, he tells her that Kimberly will be coming, but lets her know what her task will be: to take the documents she'll be given and write all the names in Excel. Being somewhat familiar with it, she assures him that it won't be a problem. Mitchell tries to have a casual conversation, but given that he's awkward, he ends up phrasing the question wrong, which only makes him want to leave. Later in the evening, we see an exhausted Marnie lying in bed. The phone rings, but she lets it go to voicemail, however. As soon as she hears Alex's voice, she jumps from the bed and straight to the phone. He picks up quickly and heads to the other room to chat. Being naturally awkward, he struggles to get to the point. and even Marnie decides to play around it. He struggles to reveal what his sister told him, and she doesn't want to hear it, so they dance around the topic. As the seconds pass, Marnie begins to feel worse and worse, not knowing what to say. Given that he has just gotten out of a relationship, he agrees that they should talk on the topic, but is sure that the timing isn't right. Instead, he asks to call her later, and she agrees. After hanging up the phone, Marnie can't help but curse at herself for admitting to liking him and telling his sister of all people. While Alex tells his sister nothing, Marnie calls and asks what she told him. Being honest, Susan lets her know that she suggested they go out, since he is single now, and Marnie admits to being surprised because he called her. She heads to a party at Dave and Rachel's place to unwind. As she enters the kitchen, Rachel greets her, but she doesn't seem to be the only one who has noticed her come, since Wyatt joins her for a drink. Through conversation, he reveals that he's studying engineering, and Marnie can't help but chuckle. Rachel joins them as they're having a toast, and as the conversation progresses, they go somewhere more private. Marnie jokes about becoming a nun, but fears that she doesn't meet the qualifications. He gets on board with her sarcastic humor, and she takes it as a sign to kiss him. She leans in, and their lips soon collide, but he breaks the kiss to let her know that he's not interested in her romantically. Luckily for him, she assures him that everything's fine before heading back to the kitchen. She tries to say goodbye to Dave, but he orders her to sit on his lap so he can help her stay. Sitting down, she tells him that his ideas are ridiculous, but one of their friends finds lap therapy helpful, so he decides to sit down. As they joke around, pretending that all of his problems have gone away, Marnie gets everyone's attention just to let them know that she's leaving. Almost immediately, Dave gets up and asks her not to leave. However, she has decided to leave, so he offers to walk her to her car. Getting into the driver's seat, she is surprised to see him slide into the passenger seat. He keeps asking her how she is, so she changes the conversation and asks how he's doing. He assures her that he's fine, and for a split second they stop talking and look each other in the eyes. It doesn't take long for them to share a passionate kiss, admitting to liking each other. However, they're quickly reminded of Rachel, so they decide nothing of it, but share another kiss before promising not to tell anyone. Marnie continues working at the company before she decides it's not really for her, so we see her conversing with Mitchell on her final workday. As she's on the line with customers, Mitchell approaches her once again to ask whether she's sure about leaving. She lets him know that she doesn't like the job, and hopes to find a new one soon because she'll need the cash. It's evident that he wants to ask her something, but he decides to go back to his office before he gets in trouble. However, as Marnie gets to the parking lot, he stops her, only to ask whether she would like to hang out. A sense of unsureness can be noticed in Marnie's words, so he assumes that she has a boyfriend. She surprisingly confirms, lying about being with someone, but assures him that they could hang out as friends. Coming back from her last day at work, she listens to her voicemails, more specifically the one from Alex. Not only does he offer her a job to work with his uncle at a university, but he also asks her to hang out sometime. So, in the evening we see her at Alex's apartment as he hands her a tin of beer. She has given up on drinking, and she makes sure to tell him about it, but doesn't mind having one beer. He is surprised, hearing something he wouldn't expect to hear from her, so he offers her some soft drinks. Their conversation gets interrupted as Alex's roommate calls him to give him a hand before he walks out. He tells Marnie and suggests they grab something to eat, to which she agrees. Left alone in the room, Marnie starts going through some stuff on her side, but once she comes across some strange pills, she tries to put everything back as it was before Alex comes in and sees her. She fixes herself just in time as Alex and his roommate come back to the apartment. His roommate, covered in dirt from head to toe, is excited to see Marnie, but she is surprised at how dirty he is. Curious, she asks what happened, and he reveals that a kid rival group attacked him. He goes on and on about the story, and eventually starts annoying Alex. He keeps making faces, and Marnie gets confused at what he's trying to do, so she calls him out for it. The roommate soon realizes that he's interrupting their date, so he disappears shortly. After some small talk, Alex grabs an egg and does a trick that makes Marnie laugh hysterically. Seeing that he made up a trick to impress her, she does the same by poking holes into the cream container and milking it into her coffee. It makes him laugh, even though he pretends not to know what she's doing. What gets the most is when she starts making fart noises and accidentally spits on him. Despite there being some awkward tension around them, the young adults end up having a good time in the end. He drives her back home, but as they pull up in front of her house, they see Marnie's friend Liz in her car. Marnie notices that her head is on the steering wheel, so she rushes to the car to see what's happening. Liz slowly lifts her head, waking up from accidentally falling asleep in her car. She claims to be good at driving, but Marnie takes the keys and puts them in her pocket. Despite protesting for a while, Liz eventually agrees to sleep at Marnie's for the night, because she's clearly in no condition to drive. Carefully, Marnie picks her up by the arm, and they start walking to the entrance. Given that Alex is still there, she tells him she'll be busy, but assures him that she had a great time. He understands, which is why he leaves without causing any problems. After tucking her in and putting the bin next to the bed in case she feels sick, Marnie decides to head out and go to a party. As she enters the party, her eyes seem to be searching for someone, despite knowing that someone won't be there. In the morning, she gets woken up by Liz offering her some toast. She thanks her for the offer, but doesn't feel hungry enough to eat, especially after realizing she's late for her meeting with the professor. Apologizing for being late, she sits down ready to hear the professor's job offer. Immediately, she's met with a reassuring smile as he tells her that it's no problem that she's late. After looking through her broad CV, he lets her know that Alex had spoken highly of her, and explains that she will be required to do research library work before they have a chance to start doing any type of work. He reminds her that it's not a glamorous job that pays well, but she assures him that she's fine with it. A couple of days later, Marnie seems to have grown fond of the job, so she decides to thank Alex in person for recommending her. However, as he enters his office, she sees that he's not there. His colleagues ask if she's looking for him, and when she says she is, they let her in on the news. First, they show her some pictures of Alex with another girl, and then explain that he got married while on vacation. Marnie cannot believe what she is seeing, especially after their outing just a couple of days ago. Furious, she goes to a payphone to call Susan, but when she answers, Marnie doesn't have the guts to tell her what she wants. Desperate, she decides to give Mitchell a chance, despite not having any feelings for him whatsoever. The conversation doesn't flow as well as with Alex, but they try to meet in the middle. He asks about her new job, given that they used to be colleagues, and she explains it to him. He also asks about the salary, and she reveals that it doesn't pay well, but she knew she had to find a job when she had -$2 in her bank account. It's evident that Mitchell is romantically interested in her, and he doesn't shy away from telling her that her boyfriend is a lucky man to have such a charming girlfriend. Confused, she asks him why he's assuming that she has a boyfriend, so he reminds her of the conversation they had in the parking lot. She still doesn't seem to remember, but apologizes for lying to him as she reveals that she doesn't have a partner. Taking a chance, he asks whether she would hypothetically go out with him and try to be more than friends. The question annoys Marnie, but she tells him that she doesn't see herself being romantically involved with him. What they have as friends is good for her, and she would love to keep it that way. Even though she explains it to him, he continues asking more questions about her non-existent boyfriend. Luckily, he notices that she gets annoyed, so he stops himself and apologizes before asking the subject to be changed. She tries talking about TV shows, but he admits to not watching TV so much, so she goes back to the topic and asks why he doesn't have a girlfriend. Feeling uncomfortable, he asks her to be realistic, but she doesn't quite understand him. He starts going on about how he is not as attractive as her, and assumes that almost all of her guy friends are in love with her, but she assures him that it's not like that, seeing that they won't agree on the topic. They switch to TV shows and discuss their favorites. The following day, we see Marnie at a supermarket shopping for some supplies when she gets approached by Dave, Rachel, Alex, and his wife. They invite her to dinner, but she kindly rejects them, claiming that she is tired. Not knowing whether she should congratulate them or not, she asks Alex and his wife whether they're married, and they reveal that they got married secretly. She congratulates them, despite feeling heartbroken and betrayed by Alex. Wanting to change her life for the better, we see her writing a to-do list in her notebook. She wants to become friends with Jackie, try not drinking for a month, go to museums, spend some time outside, become a better cook, and even improve her fitness. The last thing she writes down is what she gets to first, as we see her practicing basketball with Mitchell. They try throwing balls, but she suggests they play a real game. Putting his stuff to the ground, Mitchell gets ready to beat her in the game, but she ends up being better than him. He complains about her being too tall, so she asks whether he knows how to play chess. Of course, Mitchell lets her know that he's very good at chess, so we see them practicing in her room. She makes a wrong move and Mitchell's king wins. Confused, she asks how she lost, and he tries explaining it to her. Regardless, he promises that she'll learn more as she practices, and she takes his word for it. Remembering that she has a whole pack of beers in the fridge, she lets him know that he can take the pack home if he wants to. just to get rid of the alcohol she has in the house. Sitting outside on the porch, Mitchell can't help but comment on how depressed she looks. Confused, she looks at him and assures him that she's not. However, he doesn't believe her and even calls her lame for being depressed after they've had such a good and productive day. Still confused by his assumption, she promises that she's not depressed. He decides to back away and agree with her. However, as he sits down, he gets an idea and grabs a new bottle of beer. Instead of drinking it, he throws it from the balcony, shattering it all over the concrete. Marnie shoots up quickly, and as she sees what he's done, she scolds him for doing an unnecessary thing. As they get inside, he apologizes for doing such a stupid thing. But when she asks him why he did it, he starts being philosophical, claiming that they only get one life to use carefully. Marnie rolls her eyes in annoyance and runs to her room to plop onto her bed. However, he comes after her and asks her to get up so they can have a conversation. Sitting down, he lets her know that he'll be leaving, but refuses to leave on a sour note. Luckily for him, Marnie assures him that she's not mad at him and would be happy to play tennis together someday. Some time passes and Marnie's birthday comes. Opening the door to step out, she sees a box by her feet, so she sits down to open it. At work, she arrives with a new pair of earrings, and Jackie notices them almost immediately. Marnie reveals that they're a birthday present from her mother, and Jackie tells her that they're beautiful. Given that it's her birthday, Jackie offers to buy her a drink, but they settle on going to a coffee shop instead. A rather handsome man makes their coffees, and even doesn't let them pay. Jackie can't help but gush over him as they sit down. She reveals to know the guy working as a barista, mostly as the cute coffee guy, before finding out his real name. Marnie encourages her to go for it, but Jackie reveals that she's married and has been for 2 years. However, she notices Marnie checking him out, so she offers to set them up, but Marnie refuses. Late into the night, Marnie gets woken up by someone knocking on the door. It takes Alex a few tries before he makes her walk to the window. After seeing that it's him, she tells him that she'll be down in a second. They sit on the front porch as he asks what's on her mind. Confused, she reminds him that he came to her, but he assures her that he only wanted to wish her a happy birthday. Assuming that's all, she suggests going back to bed, but he asks her not to. He continues struggling to find the words, but admits that it is complicated for him. Marnie still doesn't know what to say, so she asks what he wants to talk to her about. After some awkward pauses, he lets her know that he would love to have a conversation about how wonderful she is, and how lucky he is to know her. Still, she doesn't know what to respond with, so he takes it as an invitation to leave, and possibly not do things like that in the future. She tries stopping him, but he leaves regardless. In the morning, we see the professor and Alex talking in his office. They touch upon Marnie, and she happens to knock at the door. Surprised to see him there, she invites him to have lunch together. They walk up to a bench that seems to be broken, so Alex suggests they sit on the grass. As they unwrap their sandwiches, Marnie tells Alex about the same 2 guys always playing frisbee together, and he can't help but call them dorks. Looking around, Alex appreciates nature, and even says that they're in the nicest park he's ever seen. Marnie agrees, and she even reveals her plan about spending more time outdoors. He thinks her plan is smart, since they spend most of their day in an office. Using the silence as a green light, he apologizes to her for sometimes being difficult to deal with, but she tells him not to apologize because they're having a nice time. The day is beautiful, and they're enjoying some beautiful sandwiches. Changing the topic, she asks where he would move, if he had the chance to move anywhere in the world. However, he backs it up by asking whether she'd be 13 feet tall or have eyes on the stalks of her head. They can't help but laugh as Marnie chooses to have eyes on her head. Looking at her with such admiration, he lets her know that he thinks the world of her, and she doesn't know what to say. Instead, she looks at him with a reassuring smile, knowing that they'll be all right.